Hey, I'm back with another video. Now, this video is kind of on a somber note, and I'm going to share my screen in a minute. Actually, let me share it now because I'm going to just pull up what I'm referring to with the title of this video, Nothing's Fair in Fifth Grade. So I titled this video, Nothing's Fair in Fifth Grade, because the fifth grade for me was very like this book, very much like this book. And some of my older viewers, females in particular, they may have read this book growing up, especially around the age of 9, 10, 11. So I remember reading it before I got into the fifth grade. And then by the time I got into the fifth grade, I could really relate to like just some of the things I was going through, where it did seem like a lot of things I was going through wasn't fair. It was like I was starting to really see that life really wasn't fair at that point. So that's why I titled it Nothing's Fair in Fifth Grade. But this also goes back to a really poignant experience that I had back when I was in the fifth grade. Now, I was in the gifted and talented program, and so was this other student, and we were competing against each other in a spelling bee. So we got to the last round and the last two words, and I had this it was my fifth grade teacher. Basically, he was basically giving us the words to spell. So I never really liked my teacher from the start. I just didn't like his attitude. He was like very emotional, and like when some of the students would cut up, especially the boys, he would like get so mad, and he would tell them, he would always be like, hit the pike. And I would always be like, hit the pike. I remember when I first, because I was a student where I came in, it was like a couple of weeks after school had started, because my parents had gotten divorced that year, and I ended up living with my mom, and we moved to a different town. So I was going to a new school, new environment, new vibe, all of that stuff. So I'm dealing with this guy, and I'm like, I had never even heard that term, hit the pike. So he'd be like, hit the pike. And I'd be like, what? So he would have like some of the unruly boys, like one at a time. If a boy was, cutting up in class, he'd be like, hit the pipe. And then he would have him against the wall in the hallway, just yelling at him, like tearing into him and like being real close in his face. So I didn't like him at all. So when it got down to that spelling bee, he gave me a word. I felt like he set me up to fail, because he gave me the word burrow. And I'm thinking he means burrow, like a little rabbit or a little mouse burrows into the ground, which is spelled Burrow. And when I spelled it like that, he was like, incorrect, it's Burro. And I remember being stumped because I never learned that word. And then I remember looking it up later and finding out that it was a donkey, like a Spanish word for donkey. So I was like, wow, he set me up. So my competitor ended up winning, and it was a big spelling bee because whoever won would end up competing with students across the state. So I was really bummed out. Spelling was my favorite subject. So like that left a really bad taste in my mouth, and I hated his guts ever since. So it was like I cursed him in my head because I was always vindictive. I was a vindictive person ever since I was a child. So when somebody did me wrong, I would immediately think like, I hope something bad happens to them, or I hope, their karma comes back real quick on them or whatever like that. So, so years later though, I found out that this same teacher, let me just pull up, I gotta pull this down, that the same teacher was convicted of aggravated sexual assault of a victim under 13 years old, and I believe it was one of his fifth grade students. Here he is right here. I don't know if I could close out like this blurb. And I do remember he looked like that. He just looks older here. Asshole. But we knew him as Anthony Puka, but here it says Antimo Puka. But if you look down here, it says alias is Anthony Puka. So he went by Tony Puka. And like I said, I didn't like him from day one. So as as it says here, race white, ethnicity white, gender male, brown, height 5'6", weight 160 pounds. Boom, here's his birthday. So you know I'm about to get into his chart. And that's when I started to get really emotional, because I saw certain aspects and asteroids that really got me choked up, and I started to shed a few tears, and I started to feel really like icky, like, oh my God, I can't believe I was in a classroom with some sexual predator, pervert, pedophile dude. So, oh my God, it makes sense that I didn't like him from day one. So he's an Aquarius, born January 23rd, 1956. That 23 breaks down to 5. 5 deals with education, so it makes sense that he is a teacher. So it says admission date October 3rd, 2012. Current max release date October 2nd, 2020. So he was sentenced to 8 years, which means that this was a pretty serious charge. His maximum term is 10 years. He's currently in custody. I wish, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it, but all I'm going to say is, you know what? Yeah, I still kind of got a grudge from back then. And I can, hold grudges because my moon is in square to Pluto. So, yeah, I still kind of have a little grudge. So I'm not really wishing you well right now. So I don't know. Maybe your last couple of years in prison ain't gonna be so sweet. I'm just saying that. Maybe universe got something else planned for you. I'm just saying now. Right here is the State Board of Examiners order a revocation of his teaching certificate. Now I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically it says on July 17, 1997, Anthony J. Puka was found guilty of 1 count of endangering the welfare of a child in the 2nd degree. He was sentenced to 8 years incarceration and ordered to pay various fines. But there's this one part in particular I want to read. I got to find it. Now it says he added that he had Puka, here's what he's stating. Now this deals with Hidalgo. I'm going to point to Hidalgo. I believe it's on his North Node. And this deals with Hidalgo because Hidalgo deals with basically where you're giving your testimony or where you're defending yourself. And that could deal with even being in court. Now, it says, let me see. The board sent Puka the order to show cause by regular certified mail on February 24th, 1999. The order provided that if the respondent desired to file, blah, 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 blah. On March 10, 1999, Puka filed an answer. In that answer, he admitted all of the charges in the order to show cause regarding his conviction and sentence. Puka also stated that he was appealing his criminal conviction and was innocent of the charges. He added that he had an unblemished record for 17 years and that this charge, although untrue, was unrelated to his teaching career. 17 years, yeah, because you didn't get caught all that time. And when I see his chart, I'm like, oh, he's a serial sexual predator. But I gotta go down to the part where this part is really telling what it states. This heavy duty requires a degree of self-restraint and controlled behavior, rarely requisite to other types of employment. Others just talk about teachers. And then I think it's on page 4. I think it's down here. Here it is. I have it highlighted. Puka is clearly an individual who should not be around children. So yes, my 5th grade teacher was a pedophile. So this is very telling. I mean, it's very apropos for Jupiter being at the 29th degree of Scorpio right now. And like I said, it will be entering my 11th house. The 11th house rules astrology, rules insight, enlightenment. So it's like I'm really, gaining more insight into how this dude ticks in the whole situation. Now, let me go to his chart. And I want to thank Bones and Tony and some of my other Real Talk Astrology members for helping me get some of his information. So let me just pull up his chart. So again, he was born January 23rd, 1956. South Node in Gemini at the 14th degree. That 14 deals with education. It reinforces the theme of education, that is Gemini. Now, anyone who got South Node in Gemini, I would not be trusted in a school setting or as a teacher or nothing, because that's not at the elementary level. I'll say at the K through 12 level, because that's not really what their destiny is supposed to be in this lifetime. So he has his moon. Now, I don't know what time he was born, so I don't know how close his moon is to his South Node, but I would think it's pretty close considering his circumstances. Now, that Gemini also points to him coming from a past life where he could have been very immoral, a past life of immorality, where he could have rationalized any type of wicked behavior. And Gemini does have a propensity to be wicked on the dark end. Now, his sun, this is the real telling part, his sun in Aquarius, Aquarius is the sign of perversion. It's also the sign of alternative forms of sexuality, alternative sexual desires. The fact that his sun is conjoined to Chiron can point to him being very much a pervert alone. And then you add in the Mercury into it, that deals with youth, that deals with him in school, that deals with him being a teacher. His sun is opposed, sun and Chiron is opposed to Uranus and Leo. Leo deals with children. Uranus deals with perversion. And this also shows that he's sociopathic. So he's a sociopath. And this opposition alone shows that he can't control himself. He's one of those sexual predators that, that he can't control himself. It's just in him like that, to be like that. So somebody like that really doesn't need to be around children ever, just like that revocation document says. And he should never be able to get out of some type of supervision. So I feel like he should, if he gets out, he should have an ankle bracelet, have to report in maybe around the clock or something, have cameras in his home, all types of stuff. And I feel this should be this way for any sexual predator, pedophile that gets out of prison. They need to be monitored around the clock, or else they need to stay institutionalized. Now, his Venus is in Pisces and it's square his Mars. That could deal with him being dysfunctional when it comes to relationships, where he doesn't find desire in women, where he doesn't find desire in normal forms of attraction, normal relationships. Mars conjoined to Saturn. When it comes to his sexuality, sexual desire, he's about control. He's about wielding authority. And I would think that he's heavy-handed too. And when I show you some of these asteroids, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, this is a real sexual predator to the max, sociopath, narcissist even. And that would explain, why, he felt the need to undercut me and be all subversive with me. Now, check this out. His Jupiter is at the 29th degree of Leo. My fifth house cusp is at the 29th degree of Taurus. The fifth house deals with competition, including something like a spelling bee. So his Jupiter is squaring my fifth house cusp. So when I tell you that this fool undercut me and screwed me over with the spelling bee, I'm not making this stuff up. And the fact that I just didn't like him from the beginning. His Jupiter is conjoined to Pluto in Leo. Again, there's the theme of children, and this can point to him having a sexual desire for children, because we have to take into account who this person is. So I'm not saying that everybody with Jupiter conjoined to Pluto and Leo has this desire, sexual desire towards children, but it can produce just a sexual attraction to that which is youthful. So it can even be like a 50-year-old woman going after a 20-year-old man, or going after a 25-year-old man, where it's still within the legal age limits, but it's still where they're attracted to that youth. Now with him though, you got to take into effect that Jupiter and Pluto are retrograde, both of them. Jupiter's at the 29th degree, and that can produce internal and external conflict, interference from third parties, just things that are dysfunctional. high pressure situations, Pluto influence. Then it's squaring Saturn. Again, there's that control thing. Him being older and taking advantage of these young kids, and I think they were boys, or one boy in particular in terms of his charges, but I feel like there was more than one. And usually that's the case when it comes to these sexual predators of children. Now again, take into account that his south node is at the 14th degree of Gemini. That 14 is Mercury. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in Aquarius, sign of perversion, also the sign of homosexuality. Also, you want to take into account that Mercury deals with youth, Gemini deals with youth, and Virgo deals with youth. Now check this out. And you could say youth or even youthfulness. Where is it at? So here are his asteroids. So one that's very telling is, I'm trying to find the one. Where's the one that I saw? Hold on. Because there was an asteroid in Virgo. Well, I'll just start with the ones I'm seeing. I don't know what's wrong with my eyes right now. But this one was really freaking me out, this Isis. But I'll get to that in a minute. But if you could see, his Eros is at the 14th degree of Sagittarius, is conjoined to his North Node in Sagittarius. And that right there points to him being caught up in the court system, having that court case, as of being judged as a result of his sexuality, his sexual desires, his lustful nature. But this can also point to the type of void or type of victims that he was going after. So that 14 again, that represents youth. And if we're talking about Sagittarius, maybe he was going after boys that were a different, race, or maybe they looked a different type of, maybe they all looked a certain type of way or whatever like that. Also, this can point to a lot where it was more than one, and which I believe. He also has Tisiphone. This is really telling. He has Tisiphone conjoined to the South Node, Gemini South Node. Now that alone deals with the media attention that he got, the news reports, and basically where he got his teaching certificate revoked, because Gemini deals with certificates, credentials, education, but also the media. So points to the news stories where we could see them on mugshot.com, all that, because Tisiphone deals with where you're judged or punished harshly. And he was even complaining that he was given a harsh sentence because, of course, he's claiming that he's innocent. But this Tisiphone can also mean that, remember I said that it looks like he's heavy-handed when it comes to sex? So it looks like he could have been heavy-handed. And this is another thing that this is what made me start to break down, because I saw he had Eurydice conjoined to Pluto. And that could deal with perhaps some child dying, because it's at the 27th degree of Leo. Leo deals with children. That could deal with some child dying, or maybe a child committing suicide as a result of him being a sexual predator. This is speculation on my part. I'm not saying this is actually what happened. But this can also deal with him stalking children, going after children. And it could have been stalking them through a car, riding in a car slowly, going to where children hang out, because Eurydice can also deal with where you're being stalked. He also has Niobe. Niobe is an asteroid that deals with children, running contraparallel. Well, Pluto's running contraparallel to Niobe. And then if we're talking about Libra, that could deal with other people's children, but it can also deal with the legal system where, he was facing, he got convicted. This Isis is very interesting because Isis deals with things that get broken up, but it can also deal with death, situations that, lead to death. It can also deal with revenge, where somebody takes revenge upon you. And it could be even involving brothers or siblings in general. And he has his South Node in Gemini. And the South Node in Gemini can produce karmic-induced circumstances involving one's siblings. So it could have been a sibling that dropped a dime on him. You never know. So another thing that's telling about these asteroids. Now, I don't know where his moon is at, but his moon could be opposed to Toro, and that would reinforce what I said about him being heavy-handed in terms of dealing with people. And remember how I say he would be like, hit the pike. Oh my God, it makes it, here we talk about insight. It makes sense. Him saying hit the pike, that's that South Node in Gemini. Gemini deals with roads, it deals with travel. That's why this fool would say hit the pike. Oh my God. And like I said, he would get right in a kid's face. He was an asshole. Oh my God. I feel like this ISIS also deals with, again, where he was heavy-handed with the kids that he was molesting. Oh my God, this is sickening. And I was starting to get sick to my stomach looking at this, because the fact that he was my teacher. Like I was dealing with this dude on a daily basis in the 5th grade. Phaethon, opposed to Neptune. That right there can deal with him leaving evidence out. And it's at the 1st degree. That 1st degree can represent children. Him leaving evidence out that ends up where he gets found out, and it could have been photographs. He could have took pictures. Oh my God. And he got Venus and Pisces. Oh my God, this fool got pictures. And I'm telling you, and he probably had a collection of child porn. This sick fuck. He's a sick fuck. Excuse my language, but I can't help it. I'm getting fired up. But like I said, he got Hidalgo at the 15th degree of Sagittarius. That 15 means he got tricks up his sleeve. He trying to, create an illusion like he's this model teacher. Because remember, he said he had 17 years of an unblemished record. Now his Hidalgo is conjoined to his Sagittarius North Node that deals with him being in court or giving a court testimony, him giving the answer to basically also the revocation. What would you call that? I think he filed an appeal. So that deals with him filing an appeal and trying to defend himself in court and all of that stuff. I'm sorry, I'm really hyped right now, but this is some crazy shit. The fact that I knew this man and he was my teacher. He got Chiron, contraparallel Jupiter. That could deal with perhaps, that Aquarius could deal with perversion, contraparallel Jupiter. It's in Leo. And that could deal with, that's part of his sexual perversion too. And that could deal with where he goes overboard with it. Wow. Like I'm telling you, there's signs that this dude, like, I really doubt it was just one kid that he victimized. This is sickening. And especially, like I said, what's really telling is that arrows all day. Oh, this is what I was talking about. I'm glad I found it before I ended this. Amor, this is what really got me sick to my stomach, y'all. When I saw that he had Mercury running parallel to the asteroid Amor, because Amor can deal with what you fall in love with. And what did I say? I said Mercury deals with youth, but it can also deal with education, school, and also students. So this shows that I don't even want to say fell in love, because it just makes me sick to my stomach to even say that, thinking about a grown-ass man. But basically, you get the picture. And look, Amor is at the 10th degree. 10 breaks down to 1. That's children. And 10 is about opportunities. And where, oh my God, 10 can also deal with cars. Oh my God. He was probably driving this kid home and stuff. Oh Lord, okay, I'm done. I have to stop thinking about this. Oh, this too, Bacchus. Bacchus deals with orgies, or just deals with debauchery, sexual debauchery, where you are, you become intoxicated off of something, and where you can't get enough, just revelry, wantonness, drunkenness. Because Bacchus was the god of wine, but also the god of like orgies and debauchery and hedonism and stuff. So you got to think about like sexual debauchery and stuff. When you look at Bacchus, especially with his Pluto, see, I'm getting that sick to my stomach feeling again. I'm getting lightheaded, especially with Pluto running contra parallel to Bacchus. And again, his Pluto is in Leo retrograde. And remember, Sagittarius. So there was probably a certain type of look that he was going after. But it can also deal with where it was a lot in number, like he was doing this on the regular, like he was doing this a lot. And again, I'm getting this like feeling in the pit of my stomach. Okay, I'm done. All right, but let me know what you think in the comments section. This is a really intense time for me, I'll just say. But I'll be back with more videos, and I'm gonna try to decompress and think about something on a more positive note. Peace and many blessings. And if you would like a reading, you could go to my website at rabina.com. I'm not that, messed up in the head where I can't do a reading right now. So don't think that, you can't get your reading. So peace and many blessings, and I'll be back with more videos.